Jack Grealish to Everton could cause a drastic change in Everton's tactics next season. With reliable sources confirming Everton's interest, it could mean quite a lot of things for Everton. But to understand what those are, we're going to look at Grealish as a player, the two different ways you can use Jack Grealish, and of course, what does that mean for one person in particular? Grealish featured 32 times for Manchester City last season. 20 of those appearances came in the Premier League. This is his heat map from those 20 appearances. As we know, Grealish is a player that almost exclusively operates from the left. And his heat map does show a tendency to drift to the left, of course. But there was actually a small percentage of minutes played in a central area for Manchester City last season, and that blows this whole thing wide open. First off, let's look at what Jack Grealish is like from the left. And I'm actually going to address a myth around Jack Grealish whilst we go through this. This is how Man City lined up against Real Madrid in the Champions League. As you can see, Grealish started this game on the left. And because Manchester City play the way they do in their high possession approach, it often meant that Real Madrid dropped back to form these two banks of four, keeping spaces quite limited in the final third. And that often meant when Jack Grealish got the ball, he was often doubled up on, the spaces became tight and he had to pass the ball backwards. And that's quite a big criticism around Jack Grealish. He often passes backwards, but he's been coached to do this. He's been asked to do this. If he didn't do it at Manchester City, he would have been sold 2-3 years ago. It's all about keeping the ball, taking little risks, trying to score the perfect goal, because Manchester City see it as, well, they've worked so hard to work the ball up the pitch. Why would you take a risk, shoot from a wide area, try to take someone on? So that part of Jack Grealish's game has naturally dissipated over time, the more and more he's been coached to do it. However, there are still a lot of good moments of Jack Grealish on the left-hand side for Manchester City. Treble season, of course, he was amazing from the left. He was a key player in that team. But these examples are from the season just gone, so they are the most recent examples we have. And this one right here is a great example of how you get the best out of Jack Grealish. He gets past the ball early. Meanwhile, Trippier, Newcastle's right back, is forced to confront him early, leaving space, and an overcommitment from Trippier allows Grealish just to drop the shoulder and beat the man. Meanwhile, Manchester City's left back, Josko Gvardiol, is in an inverted position. That's something we touched on in the last video about Adam Asnou, a player who will also get into these types of positions. But back to Grealish. In this type of position, many wingers would get their head down, work towards the byline, try to fire it hard and low across the box, hope for that percentage cross, hope it goes in. But Jack Grealish isn't really conventional in these types of spaces, because what he does is he slows himself down, relaxes his shoulders, opens up his foot, plays it through a tight gap to Gvardiol, who is in a weird area for the left back, but an area we can expect to see at Everton. And that results in Gvardiol, through a bit of magic, getting a goal. But it was initially caused by Grealish's positioning, ability to beat a player, and then the composure to find the pass. Speaking of beating a man, this is a great example of what Jack Grealish still possesses as a player. He's 1v1 versus Adam Smith here, and the amount of time you see Adam Smith's number is worrying, because Grealish slows himself down. He slows Adam Smith down in the process, meaning that he can then take him on. You see here in Grealish's body position, he gets low, uses the outside of his foot to push the ball inside, whilst Adam Smith is going the other way. And because Grealish has sold this so well, look at the distance between himself and Adam Smith now. And you see Adam Smith's number because he's trying to turn around and readjust, to try and get back at Grealish. And by this point, with Grealish in the box, you think he's going to look for the cross or for the pass, but he's actually taking his time, and there's a reason for that. So, in taking his time, he beats Adam Smith again, poor guy, before beating him again. And then you see his number, and this forces Alex Scott to then come across to try and double up on Grealish, because Adam Smith is in quicksand right now. But Grealish knows this. By beating Adam Smith repeatedly, it forces other Bournemouth players to try and move over to Grealish, and when there's two players attempting to tackle one player, there's always space somewhere else on the pitch. And Grealish knows this better than anyone. He lays it off without really looking to Gundogan, who hits the post. Next, we have an example of Jack Grealish coming up against Aaron Wan-Bissaka, a player that most of us agree is one of the better defensive right backs in the league, especially 1v1, and this is a 1v1 situation. But Grealish comes out on top. And what I really like about this one is that Grealish keeps the ball so close to his foot, Aaron Wan-Bissaka can't really dive in, because by the time he dives in and reaches for the ball, Jack Grealish has already made the decision and gone the other way. But whilst dropping the shoulder, look at Grealish. his eyes aren't looking at the ball. His eyes are actually up because whilst dropping the shoulder, trying to manipulate Wan-Bissaka, he's assessing his options. Grealish has made the West Ham defenders think that he's aiming for the byline, which has forced those 3 defenders to move their body weight to adjust to that. But when Grealish moves the other way, he actually creates a passing lane to pass to Bernardo Silva, a player he spotted whilst having his head up, dropping the shoulder. And Bernardo Silva doesn't make the most of this chance, and that's been a key thing for Jack Grealish over the last 2 years. He's been actually creating these chances, but his teammates aren't finishing them, meaning that his assist numbers generally stay quite low despite actually having high chance creation. So that's what he's like off the left, and that's what he can offer. But he also played centrally last season. This was a lineup that he actually started in centrally against Leicester, and he had a very good game. Let's talk through it. From the average positions, you see that he often drifted towards the left hand side, which is where he is usually, but this time he's doing it from central, meaning that he's not exclusively tied to that left hand side. He has the ability to go left or right, and we're going to show that in a second. His heat map does show that he spent a lot of this game on the left hand side, but importantly, he was joined by Jeremy Doku, who was also on the left, but he was wider, he was keeping the width, and he actually stayed quite a lot higher than Jack Grealish in this game. And that's important. Let's see why. And for the first time in this video, we're seeing Grealish starting in a central position this time. What he does really well is he's asking for the ball whilst also looking across the pitch to that left-hand side, so he gets the ball and already knows what option he's going to take. And this is what makes him very good in central areas. Because he gets the ball in these tight areas whilst also knowing what he wants to do next, it allows the ball to move quickly. And after scanning, he's realised there's space there to move into, so he keeps hold of the ball, and now look where he ends up. He's got an option to his left in Jeremy Doku, as we discussed, but he's also got Nico O'Reilly to his right hand side. And that's strange because Nico O'Reilly is a left back. But as much as it is strange, it's promising because, as we saw in the Asnu video, he gets into these positions. And Jack Grealish does something of high quality here. He passes the ball through a tight space to Nico O'Reilly without really telegraphing the pass at all. He doesn't even break stride to play the pass. And again, he doesn't get an assist for this because Nico O'Reilly doesn't score. However, it's a really good chance created. This time, despite being a central player on paper, he does drift off to that left-hand side. And that's fine because when Jack Grealish drifts off to that left-hand side, Doku then knows it's time to make that run in behind. And that displaces the Leicester defence because they don't know whether to drop deep to cover the space in behind them or to press higher to try and force Doku into an offside position and out of the play. And because they are caught in two minds, nobody's actually pressing the ball. And the ball is at Grealish's feet, meaning that he's allowed to turn. But Jack Grealish doesn't ignore the right-hand side of the pitch either. He starts on the left here, and you could see that a possible reverse ball to Jeremy Doku is on the cards, with Doku being in so much space. But in and around the box, especially in the central area, Jack Grealish is underrated at beating a player, and he doesn't use pace nor rely on pace to achieve this. He instead sells it quite well. His left arm goes up to fool the defender into thinking that he's going to take a shot, but what he's actually doing is pushing the ball away from the defender to force the defender to overcommit and then go past him. And that opens up an entire new attacking lane that wasn't there before for Grealish to pass into Bernardo Silva. And the quality of the pass is very good. Often you'll see players overhit this pass, put too much force into it, and the player who receives it has to take a touch. Or the pass will be behind them, the player has to recover, turn, and by then the defenders of the opposition team have already closed you down and it's impossible to take a shot. But Grealish plays it at a perfect way, allowing Bernardo Silva just to run onto it and take a shot. Again, Bernardo Silva doesn't score, meaning Grealish doesn't get the assist, despite it being really good play. But why is the ability to play off the left or centrally a good thing for Everton? When analysing a player from Man City, it's important to me to think that they're playing for Manchester City at this time, meaning that often teams are going to drop deep and close off spaces as much as they can, meaning that their players often operate in tight areas, don't get a lot of time on the ball, and because of that, things can get congested. But at Everton, we often play quite deep, we often have space to transition to, there's space for the attackers to work in. Beto, for example, is a player that can run into this space, and in a team like Manchester City, where your touch has to be perfect, everything is tight, you get no time, he would struggle. But at Everton, he's alright because he has the space. And this additional space for Jack Grealish could completely revolutionise how we see him, and even possibly get him into England's World Cup squad. By starting on the left for Everton and having this space, he'll be able to cut inside into the middle relatively unopposed. We've seen that he can beat that first player and then get his head up. Usually when transitioning, there's only one player challenging you, and if you beat him, you have the entire pitch at your disposal. And with the movements of players like Barry and Beto up front, players who will peel left, peel right, and make runs in behind, Grealish could really thrive off that. But when Grealish is central, he could become the fulcrum in making sure that the wingers get brought into play. If the wingers are staying high and wide, Grealish would be the player that gets the ball and then gives it to the wingers. And this probably means that he won't get the assists or goals because he'll be giving it to the wingers, who then probably cross it in or cut it back to the striker. But it'll still be an important part of the team and still be a very dangerous tool for Everton when we're counter-attacking. And as we saw with Jeremy Doku, it may allow one player in particular at Everton, Iliman Ndiaye, to stay quite high. And with your best players, with your best creative players, your best attacking players, you want them as high and close to the goal as possible. But the absolute best thing is, and something we already know about Iliman Ndiaye, is that he's a player who actually likes to play centrally. Grealish and Ndiaye are very similar in that aspect. They can play at the left. They can play in the middle as well. Together, throughout games, they could swap intravenously and it would be seamless. If they were to do this all the time, the width on the left-hand side could be an issue. But it won't be because Adam Asnou is a player who likes to stay high. Adam Asnou has just signed. If you want to see a video on the real reason Everton signed him, click here.